What's up, friends? My name is Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to Whoop Wednesday. That was a gig that I did for a luxury automotive company called Atlanta Automotive on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, actually. They had me out Saturday to shoot a bunch of cars in the parking lot. Sunday, there was a car show at Avalon, which is a really fancy schmancy, I forget what they're called. There's a name for them where they put a bunch of businesses and a whole bunch of apartments, and they set it up so that, like, you never have to leave there. I don't know. There's a name for that, like planned community or something like that. That's what Avalon is. It's a really, really fancy planned community. So yeah, that was Sunday, and then Monday was back at their dealership to do interiors, and that's what that just was there. The first thing that I played, I think that's going to be what they use, but I gave them a ton of stuff, a ton of B-roll, and yeah, I love doing that shit. In the chat, Hockey Rounds, Matt Trombley, Troy Prelog, Wesley Clark, Bob Bruce, FP Avery, Mick Bucas, Douglas Otwell, Riot 9, CH3FPV, Northern Tier, Frank Nicholas, Eat the Fish, CH3 again, FP Avery again, Rockcrawler, Steve-O, Brandon Woodford, We Bleed FPV, Hockey Round, Steve OC. I'm like, hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for coming. We are going to investigate. Sounds so official. The Bee Drone Cockroach V3 frame minus the carbon fiber brace that it comes with. Bee Drone sent me this frame a long time ago, 6 to 8 months ago. They initially sent it in 3 different materials. I tested all 3 of those materials and then gave them some feedback. They then sent the V2 of the prototype. This is the Cockroach V3. This right here is the second version of that, right? So it's the V3 V2. And then I tested, they actually sent me 2 of these, and I tested these a bunch as well. Dog's going ham upstairs. But they said, like, hey, this is secret prototype testing. Normally, prototype testing is secret. Every once in a while, a company will say, like, hey, no, you can talk about the prototypes on your stream. You can show them. You can live test them on the stream. Tiny Whoop did that with the 603 30,000 kV motors. Weebly did that with the Crown frame. And that's really cool. That is always very unexpected for me, because it's like typically it's like, no, I want to hide the results until I'm finished with it. But I actually think it's really cool when we can kind of look at the stuff together, and I think that you get more feedback from it that way. And it also, I don't know. It's cool either way. It's if a company wants to keep the prototype testing secret, I totally get it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, it's pretty cool that there are companies that are like, nah, man, let's do this like as a community. Let's get as much feedback as we can, yeah, you can show the prototype testing. So I mean, no wrong answers there, but this product testing was more of the standard kind of practice of like, don't talk about it, don't show it, give us the feedback, and then we'll get you the final version, which you can test on the stream. So that's kind of what happened here. This frame was released maybe over the weekend. I did not. I tested it so long ago that I don't know if they told me what the release date was going to be, or maybe they didn't know what the release date was going to be. So it came as a little bit of a surprise to me. But that's fine. We caught it pretty quick. So yeah, we're going to dive into it today. I'm going to build this frame for the first time without the carbon fiber brace. Previously, I tested this with, it's funny. I tested this frame with the carbon fiber brace with a set of Tiny Whoop motors, a kind of off-the-wall set of Tiny Whoop motors that Jesse said, don't show these on stream. He sent me 2 sets of prototype motors. One set he said, go ham. The other set he said, hold on. It's kind of nuts what we're doing with this other set of motors. And this carbon fiber brace is the reason that those prototype motors are all wrecked now. Basically, with Tiny Whoop motors, they've got the motor bell, the stator on the bottom, and then inside of the motor bell, there's a 1mm motor shaft, and that motor shaft goes down through the stator, and then it pokes up above the bell, and that's where you put your prop down onto. Every time that you crash, it side loads that motor shaft, right? The duct pushes against the propeller pushes against the motor shaft, and it tries to bend that motor shaft every single time you crash. When you use a plastic frame with plastic supports on the stator of the motor, when that happens, when the propeller gets pushed sideways, just like I'm showing you here, the bottom of the motor moves and it absorbs some of that shock. So when you get that like really sharp hit, it takes that amount of energy and it spreads out the amount of time that the whole thing has to deal with it, right? And so the plastic frames by themselves do a really good job at keeping the motor shafts from bending because they absorb that, like the whole system absorbs that shock, right? The guard absorbs some of it, then it transmits some of that into the propeller, into the motor shaft, into the stator. That absorbs a little bit of it, but the motor shaft and stator are metal, right? So they're not going to do what plastic is going to do. They're going to just kind of stand strong, and it's going to look for the weakest link. Well, the next weakest link is going to be the base, the base of where the motor mounts to, where the stator mounts to, I should say. So that base is actually going to move as well. So with a plastic frame, your motors last a long time. It's really, I'm not going to say it's difficult to bend the motor shaft, but it takes a long time for the motor shafts to bend. The reason why the motor shaft's bending is a big deal is because you can't fix them. Like once the motor shaft is bent, it's game over. You got to replace that motor. And when it happens gradually, it's kind of hard to pick up on. All of us, like, you build the rig, you start flying it, you're 20 batteries in, you're like, man, it doesn't fly quite as good. I got to bring my PIDs down. And you put another 20 batteries in, you're like, it's flying like crap again. I got to add extra filtering. It's because the motor shaft is bending more and more and more. And when the motor shaft bends, now the bell and the propeller wobble. And that creates vibrations. And AIOs already have a hard time with vibrations. So that's kind of the full picture as to what's going on here. When you add a carbon fiber brace into the mix, and this also happens with the fractal frames. This is one of the main reasons that I don't run the fractal frames for freestyle. With the carbon fiber brace in place, when the duct gets hit, the motor base has nowhere to go because it's rigidly mounted on the carbon fiber. So what happens is the duct is the only thing to absorb some of the energy, and then it just dumps that energy into the motor, and it tries to dump that energy into the carbon fiber. Carbon fiber doesn't budge. So the motor shaft has to handle all that energy over and over and over again. And what ends up happening is you just bend the motor shaft. For me, that happened within probably 20 to 30 batteries, which is just way too quick. And it's not like this frame is going to be any worse than any other frame. Like as soon as you mount your motors in into a carbon fiber piece, you're just going to have that happen. So yeah, like I said, all 4 of those crazy motors that Jesse sent me are wrecked. All 4 of them are vibrating like absolute crazy now, from not a lot of batteries with this carbon fiber frame. This carbon fiber frame support, I should say, is not a bad thing. If you don't crash hard, then this is going to be awesome for you, because this is going to do a much better job isolating the motors from their natural vibrations. So if you don't crash hard or often, or if you crash only into like padded surfaces, right? Like if you're, I mean, that's going to be hard, right? Because like you're probably not in an insane asylum in a literal padded room. Like we got to see that with the crown frame the other day. I was like, oh, I just won't fly it upstairs where there's hardwood floor. I'll fly it in the basement here where there's carpet. But then I wound up slamming it into the TV stand, which is made of wood and is hard, right? So the walls are going to be hard, right? So I mean, like even if you're in a semi-padded kind of space, it's going to be awful hard to never crash into hard surfaces. I guess a better use for the carbon fiber frame would be if you order a whole bunch of like if you build your rig and you order 8 motors instead of 4, and you've got 4 replacement motors. You can just be vigilant about when you start crashing hard, spinning that motor up and feeling for vibrations like I've shown you a million times. And then as the motor shafts get bent, you take those motors off, 3 screws, unplug the plug, slap a new one on, away you go. So in those scenarios, this carbon fiber brace is awesome. And one of the things I actually like about this setup over the fractal frame is that this carbon fiber brace only has this one standoff blocking the thrust. With the fractal frame, you've got double standoffs because it's a box frame style. so you lose a little bit more thrust with the fractal frame setup. What I do like about the fractal frame setup, though, is you can put the camera all the way up front and get the ducts out of view. So there are benefits to each one of these. There's not a best, there's not a right answer. There's only like a right answer for you. There's a frame that will fit you perfectly, and I try my best to kind of give you all of those pluses and minuses, and use this long form content platform to really talk about this stuff, rather than just coming out with a 10-minute video that says, hey, this frame is the best, go buy it at my affiliate link or you're a jerk. We try to like really dive in and figure out, is this the one for you? And so yeah, if you're gonna get this Cockroach V3 frame, to use it with the carbon fiber duct, keep all that brace rather. Keep all of that in mind. This could be the perfect frame for you, just from the fact that it has this carbon fiber brace on it. If you don't care about getting the camera all the way up front and you want the benefits of the carbon fiber brace, done. Like, this is it. This is the only frame that we've got that has this carbon fiber brace. And what I can say is that if I hadn't been crashing the shit out of this, it would have been great. Like, it would have been fantastic with this brace and this current setup. It worked really well. I was able to crank the PIDs way up, bring my filters way down. The quad sounded really clean. It was great. But I crashed too much. So this is gone for me. I've never known someone to do this, but they set this frame up so that you can run it without this brace. We might run into some issues with screw length. The carbon fiber brace is maybe a 1/2 mil thick, maybe 1 mil thick. So without it, the screws, the mount base here, the motor mount base is pretty thin. So I might not be able to. I might run into some trouble with screw length, but they did include a little baggie of really short screws, I think. And the 0702 newbie drone motors come with shorter screws. So hopefully I can find some, we're going to find out very soon. Hopefully I'm going to find out if there are some screws that will work with these guys. I'm going to take the Weebleed build that I cracked the other crown frame on, and I'm going to transfer this into one of these guys. So this is the full tilt ultimate freestyle tiny whoop, so it's light, powerful, all the good stuff. So yeah, this will be a nice test of whether or not the ultimate freestyle build is a good match for this frame. And then we're also going to put the newbie drone Hummingbird V3 build into it as well, just because it makes sense. It makes sense to have all the newbie drone stuff made it up to a newbie drone frame. It'll also allow me to abuse this Hummingbird AIO some more at the same time as abusing this frame. And it'll also give us a chance to look at the performance of the fully upgraded newbie, not fully upgraded, almost fully upgraded. We could technically save a little bit of weight by swapping this canopy out to something else. But this is cool because it's all newbie drone stuff, right? If you go on Newbie Drone's website, you can order everything that's in this build, including this frame. You know, you can't get this Meteor 65 Air frame off of Newbie Drone's website. So this will be kind of a cool rig because you can build it from one spot, and it's like hopped up as much as you can performance-wise from that one spot. So yeah, that's the plan for tonight. I'm kind of excited. I've been sitting on this frame forever, wondering when they were going to come out with it. Because yeah, it performed really well with the carbon fiber brace, as long as I didn't crash the shit out of it, which for me is impossible. I didn't, I think that they told me that you can run it without the brace, but I just didn't think about that. Like, it came with the brace, so I did all of my testing with the brace. And so, yeah, this will be cool to see what it's like without it. It's pretty lightweight. The frame weighs pretty much what the crown weighs. Come here, you little bastard. Oh my god, why are you soaking wet? Oh, and you stink. Oh, 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 get out of here, smelly beast. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, I can smell it. Oh, he must have been outside. Shard of the day! if you're an OG CiottiFPV fan, you need one of these shirts. Now we're called the Gangly Gang, but we used to be called the Collective. So yeah, if you're old school, make sure you have one of these shirts to show your love for the first. We went with the Collective for about the first 2 years, I think, of this live stream. Long time. But yeah, about 6 months ago, we swapped over to the gangliest of the gangs. Look at that beautiful sticker designed by CMYK. And the crazy glitter printing from Sticker Mule. These are available. Message me and I'll tell you how to get them. This is my full-time job. CiottiFPV.com is the spot where you can get over to Teespring to order one of these shirts or a whole bunch of other ones. There's an Etsy store with some stickers and whatnot. There's a Fiverr page where you can work one-on-one with me, take advantage of 7+ years of knowledge, stop buying things that catch on fire. And then there's a whole bunch of affiliate links over there as well. If you're buying something on the internet, someone has an affiliate link. Hook them up, allow them to keep chasing their dream, and hit that affiliate link before you check out. Or just replace all your bookmarks if you still use bookmarks with someone's affiliate link. Or if you're like me and you just type like AMA for Amazon into your URL bar, you can type AMA into your URL bar. It'll suggest whatever Amazon page you go to most often. You can X that out, remove that suggestion, and just hit my Amazon affiliate link a couple times. And then your browser will be like, oh shit, he wants to go to the Nut Grabber all the time. And then when you type AMA, it'll automatically select my affiliate link. Those are the ways you can support me. If you do that, I'll keep doing this. Patreon as well. I almost forgot the most important one. Patreon supports me is the closest thing that I have to a paycheck. It's the thing that helps me out the most. It's linked over on CiottiFPV.com. $3 whole a month, you can jump on board, get a shitload of benefits. 7.5 cents per hour of live streams that I do. You can't tell me this isn't worth 7.5 cents of your time. It's been a half an hour already. That's like 4. I'm bad at math. 3.75 cents worth of content. Sometimes you gotta shill, yo. They call me King of the Shills. Let's get to work, because we got a whole bunch of screws to unscrew. No, in the chat, if you want to talk directly to me, all you got to do is type CiottiFPV. When you do that, it'll light up an orange, and I will read it. CH3 says, what's up? He also says, sick one take. Thank you, dude. FP Avery says, did he give you a jacket? They didn't, but they gave me a t-shirt. Rockcrawler says, Heidi ho! CMYK says, what up, gangly gang? CMYK also dropping the CiottiFPV.com link. Thank you, dude. Steve-O is apparently taking bong hits. And I think we're there. Freelojo dropping the Patreon link. Thank you, dudes. Who wants to be a shillionaire? That's a good one. Welcome to Who Wants to Be a Shillionaire? Hold on. Oh, that's a good one. Ah, fart. Welcome to Who Wants to Be a Shillionaire? Did you know that now you can you bitch! Welcome to Who Wants to Be a Shillionaire? I'll probably get copyright dinged for that one. I let that play a little bit too long. I also just spit. Did you guys see it? Could you guys see me spit just now? I'm horrified. I'm horrified. Live stream over. I'm embarrassed. Hey, little guy. Hey, buddy. You never get flown. You just sit there because you're boring. Ah. Hey, Zotek, do you want me to hang on to these broken crown frames and like send them to you, or should I just trash them? So far, I'm holding on to them just in case you didn't see what you wanted to see about the about where it cracked and whatnot. So yeah, let me know. Weebleed says, "What's the weight of the V3?" Great question. Thank you for reminding me to weigh it. I think it's almost exactly what the crown frame weighs. On my scale, here, let me give you guys some reference points for my scale, because my scale is not like calibrated or anything like that. This is the Meteor 65 Air frame, and on my scale it's coming in at 2.6 grams. It just hit 2.7 though, 2.65 let's say. This broken crown frame is missing a piece, and it's coming in at 2.8, so let's say 2.9 grams after we put that a little piece of plastic back. And then the Cockroach V3 frame without the carbon fiber brace is also coming in at 2.9, although hold on. Let's see if now it's 3.0, so let's say 2.95 for the new Bee Drone V3 without the brace. Those are all the frames that I have sitting here ready to be weighed. So yeah, it is. It's right there in terms of weight. It's about the same weight. Yeah, Zotek, let me know if you want me to hang on to this or if I'm okay to throw it away. All right, so let's start unscrewing screws, yo. Although first, a couple quick chat tags here. Limit says, can you please send me a link to one of your videos of how to diagnose a motor, please? I have a Mobula 6 HD0 and one motor is making some weird noises. So motor that's, I mean, I don't necessarily know if I have a video about how to diagnose a motor specifically. I mean, I have videos where I show you how to plug the quad into Betaflight and go to the motors tab and just spin the motors up individually. But it doesn't necessarily sound like that's what you're looking for. The quick and easy solution, if time is money, if your time is worth money, the quick and easy solution is to take that motor off and replace it. Motors are fairly cheap. The amount of, you're going to spend a half an hour to an hour troubleshooting it. What is an hour of your life worth? Even if it's the fanciest 5-inch motor that there is, it's like $26-27. If the motor is making noises, it's probably shot anyway. So yeah, quick, easy solution, if time is money, is just to replace that motor. If you want to dive into it and spend some time, I mean, diagnosing a motor, you already know that it's making a noise, so there's nothing that you can do with it on the quad. So you're going to pull the propeller off. If it's a 5-inch motor and it has a screw on the bottom of the stator to hold the bell to the stator, you're going to remove that screw. If you've got a driver on that screw and you can't get it to budge, you need to put some heat into that screw because it's probably Loctited. So you need to take the tip of your soldering iron, put it on that screw head, wait a minute or two to heat that screw up, and then you should be able to break the Loctite free because it'll be softened up from the heat. At that point, like, you're just looking for issues. You're looking for things that are stuck to the magnets. You're looking for dirt, junk. You're going to clean the motor. You're going to take a look at the bearings, make sure that they're not all janked up, clean the whole thing. At that point, you're going to put it back together and see if it still makes noise. And if it is still making noise, now you're going to replace it anyway, which is kind of why you might just want to... Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot that can really go wrong with them other than them getting dirty and having that dirt. Like they're just not very fixable, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Technically speaking, if you've been running those motors for a while and you've saved the ones that you've broken... Teddy! Why? You might have some extra stators with some good bearings in them. The bottom bearing in the stator is usually good, almost always good. So technically you might be able to smack that bottom bearing out of there and then replace your top bearing. Usually the top bearing is the one that dies. If you can get the top bearing off, sometimes they glue those those bearings into the stators and they're not replaceable. So yeah, it's really, like, fixing motors is extremely difficult. And a lot of times you can't fix them anyway. So we're right back to square one of replace the motor. Just swap the motor out. Just, put the cart before the horse in this case and just knock it out. So, but yeah, the motors kind of are what they are. They either spin or they don't. They're fairly straightforward. It's a stator with 2 bearings in it, top and bottom, and then a motor shaft that goes up to the motor bell. It kind of is what it is. If you can pull all of that apart, you can look at it and say, like, is it dirty somewhere? If it is, clean it, put it back together. If it's not dirty, that's kind of it. You can go further down the rabbit hole by trying to swap bearings out. But if you don't have a replacement bearing, there's really nothing you can do, because none of these guys sell replacement bearings, because the motors are so cheap and they just expect everyone to replace them. So yeah, round and round we go. Limit says, thanks a lot. I thought it might be an issue from the PID tune or something. I'm just getting into the hobby, so I don't know much about it yet. Now you know a whole bunch more, my friend. Yeah, no, the PID tune, 99% of the time, the PID tune has nothing to do with it, even though everyone on Facebook groups are going to tell you that that every single problem with your quad is caused by the PID tune being wrong and you being an idiot because you don't know how to tune. None of those people have any idea what the hell they're talking about. Don't listen to anybody on Facebook groups unless they are like a very technical, like, resource that has been testing this stuff for many years, like me and Joshua and a couple other people have. All it's going to do is make your life miserable. Just understand that Facebook is filled with horrible advice. You will get probably 80% of the advice that you get on Facebook groups will be dead ass wrong. So stop listening to what any of those people say. If you want, the only real way to get any decent advice on Facebook is if each person, you like click through to their profile page and just start scrolling and see when they got into quads. Most of them got into quads 10 minutes ago and they have one rig, but somehow they're miraculously an expert that knows everything. I'm being sarcastic if you couldn't pick up on it. So yeah, do that. There you go. Now you know a whole bunch. That'll save you hundreds of dollars right there. So yeah, Limit says I'll swap the motor. It's like $10, so it's not worth the trouble of trying to dismount and clean it. Yeah, it like, especially with small, like tiny whoop motors, like, yes, you can pull them apart. You can technically get the C-clip off the bottom. And I'll do it every once in a while, but you got to really, sometimes you got to just really stop yourself and be like, yo, this is going to take me an hour. I make, when I go to work, I make $20 an hour. Why am I going to sit here and do this for $10 an hour? And at the end of it, you're probably not going to be able to fix it anyway. So it's like, shit, I just went $10 in the hole rather than saving $10. So yeah. CMYK says, speaking of motors for 0702/0802, when they get squishy, is it worth swapping in new bushings, etc.? So I believe what CMYK is referring to about squishiness is, I think what he means is when you push on the top of the motor, after a while, the whole top of the motor will give a little bit. Basically, you've got your motor bell, and then you've got the motor shaft that goes through it, and over time that motor bell can sneak upwards a little bit. And the motor bell is what has all the magnets in it, and those magnets self-center on the stator poles. And so as the motor bell lifts up, or you could think of it as the shaft sinking down, the motor shaft will so on the bottom of the motor shaft there's a C-clip, and that C-clip is there initially to keep the motor bell from moving up or down too much. It'll always have like a tiny little bit of play because you don't want stuff rubbing against each other. But as that wears and that motor shaft comes down, when you push down on the top of the motor, you'll see the motor bell move up and down because that shaft is coming out and the C-clip is backing off. It's okay for a while, again, because the magnets in the stator pole kind of self-center themselves. It's kind of fine for a while. The problem with it is that the motor is making thrust. So as that shaft slides down the bell, when it starts to make thrust, it can pull the bell of the motor up a little bit off of the stator, and that will make a little bit less power. because the magnets are no longer perfectly aligned with the stator poles. I don't think that these little motors really make enough thrust to do that, especially because as the motor makes more power, that magnetic field is stronger, so it wants to pull that bell. It wants to keep that bell centered as it makes more and more power. But it's still not a great thing. Like, eventually you do want to fix that. Technically speaking, you can like brace the bell and then put something really small on the motor shaft and smack it from the bottom to push it back up farther into the bell. The problem with doing that is now it's going to slide back down and out twice as fast because it's already been fatigued to pull itself out, and it's been fatigued putting itself back in, you smashing it back in. So yeah, eventually you do want to replace that motor. I don't sweat it for a while. I let them I let the motors get pretty squishy, as CMYK calls it, before I replace them. Like, I have to really be able to grab. You know what? One of the best tests is to just do all 4 motors at once. Take each motor and just pull. So you're gonna grab the frame or the stator base, and then you're gonna pinch the propeller and just pull up and down on it, and you can see how much it moves, and then go on to the next one, and then go on to the next one, and go on to the next one. You've probably got one that's not a disaster. Or if you've got another quad with motors that are fresher, you can get like a baseline as to how much movement there is from the factory, like when they're new. And then if you're doing this and it's moving a whole bunch compared to the control, it's time to change that motor. If you have one motor that's way worse than the others, change that motor. If all 4 of them are kind of like that, you know, I mean, it's up to you. Some people, myself included, are willing to really run rigs into the dirt. In doing so, you're just going to kind of keep an eye on the performance of the rig. Once the performance starts to suffer, then it's time to change the motors out. That's why it's nice to have like identical rigs sometimes, because if you have 2 identical rigs, one of them's on fresher motors, the other one that's on beat-ass motors, if you're doing that trick and there's a bunch of motion there, it's kind of like, all right, well, I can tell that this is starting to perform like ass compared to this other one, so it's time to replace these motors. So yeah, there you go, friends. Brandon's baked beans. His missus is fatigued from him ramming it back in. CMYK says yes to play between the stator and the bell. Off Axis says I'm back on the Patreon, but only as long as you don't shave the hairy gerbil on your face. Deal. Brandon's Baked Beans says, I want to know how long CiottiFPV can fly a whoop with no C-clips installed. 5 seconds, because that's about how long it takes me to crash. When there are no C-clips, it's pretty cool, actually. You've got the motor bell, the motor shaft. If that C-clip comes off the bottom, that motor's fine. You can fly it around. But when you crash, the motor bell and shaft will like bounce down and eject off, and it's kind of funny. When that does happen, it's very annoying because you can't get replacement C-clips. But save your old broken motors because they have perfectly good C-clips and washers on them down the road. If you lose your mind and decide to tear motors apart to try to replace them, you'll have some extra parts. So yeah, there you go. See my cases. Thank you. 99% running these UTW builds outdoor, and concrete is never friendly. Yeah, indeed. Let's investigate the new Bee Drone Cockroach V3. Why is this camera is visibly, there we go. That's better. Let's do the Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop first, because it is in a full-blown broken frame at the moment. I would love to, if I can only get one rig back up in the air, it should be this one, because the Newbie Drone rig over there is still working. It's there's nothing to compare that, like, I wouldn't, once I switch this over, I can't really make a comparison between the two, but still, in the interest of having as many rigs working as possible, let's knock this one out first. And this is the perfect little driver for tiny whoop screws, in my opinion. This is the WIHA 261, WIHA 261. I absolutely love this. There's not an affiliate link or anything like that to it. I mean, there is an Amazon.com affiliate link. Amazon is where I get these WIHA drivers from. What I really like about these drivers is they're the perfect length to lose your screws. Perfect length to have the little rotating cap in your palm, and then you're just finger tight on here. And it's like they're kind of the body of these is kind of skinny, which is nice because it prevents you from over torquing these little screws, and it also allows you to really remove these screws quickly. The thicker the body of the screwdriver, the less turns you're gonna get per like finger rotation here, you know. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of these WIHA drivers. I have like an entire set of Allen and Torx and Phillips, and yeah, they're just really, really nice. German made, so they're really good quality, and they hold up. I've had these WIHA drivers for absolute ever, and I've only ever had one of them that has needed to be replaced, and it was the M1.5. This little guy, the head is a little bit rounded off, but in fairness, I have had this for at least 20 years. I used that to death back in airsoft days, where I ran a custom gun shop and built like a dozen guns a week, every week for a couple of years. So that thing really has lived one hell of a life, and it's kind of absurd that it's still it's not completely rounded off. So yeah, WIHA drivers are 10 out of 10 as far as I'm concerned. There is a green and black drive. When you search for WIHA drivers on Amazon, there will be some green and black ones that come up. They are not the same thing. These red and black ones are the ones that I really prefer. Those green and black ones are probably fine, but yeah, I like these red and blacks better. I think those green and black ones are also made by a different company. Don't quote me on that, though. I'm not sure. I think they might be WIRA, W-I-R-A. I've heard that those are the American version of WIHA, but I don't know. You can still buy these red and black ones. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't quite understand that. Because like they're not the same exact thing. Like they have a slightly different profile to them, and I think that they're like a rubbery material. These red and black WIHAs are a plastic material. I don't know. Maybe us fat, dumb Americans need the rubberized grip for our greasy cheeseburger fingers. Maybe. I don't really know. This frame is broken anyway, so I'm just going to clip this standoff to make it a little bit easier for me to get this double dump plug out of here. And yeah, there we go. Okay, so here it be. This is the Cockroach V3. Technically speaking, this is still a prototype, so maybe they've improved it. Again, this prototype was sent to me many, many months ago. So there's a chance that the final version is even better than this prototype. I have no way of knowing that, and I don't have the production version. So I'm just going to... And with how good this one held up, and the fact that this was like the version 2 of the prototype, yeah, I'm going to make the assumption that this thing is fine. But it looks like this frame might not clear this AIO. Hold on a second here. I'm having a hard time with the camera plug. I might need to just get it down. I might need to just get the AIO down in here. All right, so Here's what I'm going to say. Man, there's a weird smell down here. I'd love to know what the hell the smell is. It smells like food, but like rotten food. The hell is that smell, yo? Boy, oh boy, this is a tight fit here. There we go, we got it. Okay, so let me show you what's going on. All right. The tops of these ducts. Let me show you over here. The top of these ducts are really close. So that there's a really steep angle on the duct. You see that? See how the top lip of the duct really sticks out quite a bit? Compare that to the Meteor 65 Air. See how the top of the duct barely sticks out at all? Right? So the top of this duct here, sticking out like crazy, that it goes all the way around and it sticks out like crazy on the inside here too. So the AIO is absurdly close to the top of the duct there. Is that hard to see? There we go. See how close that is? And now back here, it's not that much of an issue, but over here, where the camera plug is, that is a little bit of an issue. And I believe that it is actually pinching. I don't... Here's how we check that. We can check that by trying to move these cables. All right, watch this. See if the cables move. Nope. Well, yeah, okay, they move a little bit. See them? So this is hard to see this. This is a feel thing. You have to put pressure on the wires and see if they move. If you have to put a lot of pressure on them, that means that they're pinched. I don't really have to put much pressure on these. These are moving pretty freely. I'm not thrilled with this, but I think we're going to be okay. See, I guess you can kind of tell, like, I'm not really pushing that hard. So we're going to run this, but I don't love this about it. This is not my favorite thing in the world about this frame and this AIO. I'll bet you, I'm certain that with the Hummingbird AIO, because of the fact that it's one of these cut down AIOs, it's going to clear totally fine. But if you're planning on using this frame with the Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop build, which utilizes the Mobula 6 ELRS AIO, be aware of that. I'm not going to say, like, don't do it until I've done it, and that's what we're doing right now. A lot of doing going on. But yeah, something to be aware of. File it away. If you do this build, the exact build that I'm doing right now, and the stock PID tune does not work, it could be because basically what's happening here is this AIO is not floating completely free on the frame. And we usually want the AIO to float freely on the rubber grommets so that the frame can vibrate and then the AIO can stay still, right? The frame vibrates, the rubber grommets on the corners vibrate, but then the AIO is isolated because of that rubberiness. So the frame is going to shake below it, essentially. So yeah, just keep it in mind. Charles Marseille says, I heard about the updates, or no, he says, heard about the updates on OpenHD. I know it's not your style to try all the new stuff, but it's a very cool open source project that's HD with 35 milliseconds latency for $80. That's pretty cool. I've heard of OpenHD. I don't know a goddamn thing about it though. I tend to stay away from stuff until it's somewhat plug and play. You know, I will probably never be like the technical resource, the review person. So yeah, I've just barely heard of it. I don't know what the the hardware looks like. I don't know how hard it is to get set up. Usually what happens is, like, you guys will tell me about stuff and I'll be like, oh, okay, and I'll know a little bit about it. And then eventually one of the other reviewers will do a proper video about it, and I'll watch that video to kind of learn about it, and then if I'm interested, I'll dive in. But by waiting for like another reviewer to kind of dive into it, or just somebody that I watch on YouTube, basically, it gets me over the time period where it's like ultra sketchy or like pain in the ass or like programming heavy. That stuff is just not my strong suit, you know. Like, out of the 20 or 30 different things that we have to get good at in FPV, I try to have like flying be at the top of that list, and then knowing what mechanical components are best is really high up on that list as well. Yeah, that's just my sort of priority list within FPV. All right, let's get these. All right, so here we go with the motors. Let's see what the deal is. I'm going to try to use a regular length motor screw, and it's probably going to be too long, but let's just see what happens. So these are Weebleed FPV motors. They are the 0702 32,500 kV screamers. And I'm going to do this with the nerd goggles on so that I can see how much of this screw is driving up into the stator, because I don't want to ruin the PCB on the stator. One of the problems that I'm already having is that this screw is starting to bottom out already on something, and the motor is very loose. So I think we've already answered the question of whether or not you can use regular screws. What is happening, though, is that the Loctite on that screw is starting to go into the stator, and that might be what's causing it to kind of bind up. So let me just try another screw here. Yeah, that's exactly what was happening. Okay, so I just tried another screw that had a little bit less Loctite on it, and this one is fine. Okay, so yeah, it looks like regular length screws are fine as long as you're using a motor that's made by Happy Model. The Weebleed motors, the Tiny Whoop motors are both made by Happy Model, and what they do is in their... This is going to be impossible for me to show you, but just bear with me here. What they do... I'm going to try my best here, friends. Is they've got a little hole. So I want you to look at the stator base where the screw goes through, okay? So the screw goes through there. You see how that hole is completely opened? Right? The hole is completely opened, even though there's a PDB above it, because they've got a big hole in the PDB. So the screw can go up through the metal stator on the very bottom there, and then it can also go up through that PDB. And it doesn't bottom out on anything. The Newbie Drone 702s do not have that setup. The PDB above the stator base does not have holes in it. So if you put a screw in that's too long, it will start pushing up and it will break that PDB, which I have actually done on these motors now twice. And I pushed them back down and flattened them back out, and the motors have been fine. But yeah, this frame, if you're not going to run the carbon fiber brace, the motor pad is even thinner. So this is just something that you really want to pay attention to, is what motors are you putting on this frame. And even if you're putting Happy Model motors, you do want to pay attention to this. Because like if the screw's binding up, or yeah, you just want to make sure that your screws are not too long, and make sure that they're not driving themselves into the windings or into the PDB or anything like that. What I can see with the nerd goggles on is that these regular length screws here, they are going in and they're actually peeking out above the PDB a little bit. Not a lot, but just a little tiny bit. So get your, when you're doing this, get your 5X loop out and get a really close look on the tops of these screws to make sure that they're not going too far and pushing into the windings or anything like that. Something that we don't usually really have to deal with on tiny whoops. It's something that we definitely have to deal with on big quads. You know, tiny whoops, we're lucky enough that like there's some amount of standardization with them, which is really nice. Really welcome thing to have happen. But yeah, now that we're getting into like different frame designs and whatnot, it's kind of inevitable that we're gonna have to pay attention to that stuff. All right, so I just put 3 of these in, and it looks like it's gonna be okay. We are going to dive on into the other 3 motors. I'm gonna do it without the nerd goggles, and then when we fire this up, we're gonna look for the motors to twitch or anything like that. Not the best idea to wait for that point on these AIOs because they're so finicky, but I'm pretty sure that we are going to be okay. You'll find out with me. I'll be, I'll tell you the truth though, I'll be honest if I blow up, I'll be pissed if I blow up this, this AIO because this is one of the ones with the better gyros. This is either an MPU 6000 or a BMI 270. But I think we're going to be all right. All that being said, when I got these prototype frames, Newbie Drone did send me a little package of smaller, shorter screws. So that would be the best bet, would be to use those shorter screws, because at that point you can, well, in theory, right now I'm saving those shorter screws for the other build, which is using those Newbie Drone 702s, just in case I need those shorter screws for them. So yeah, I'm just kind of hanging on to those just for the time being. And yeah, if you use these regular old Whoop motor screws, when if they have the pre-applied Loctite, the screw is going to feel like it's bottoming out when that Loctite hits the stator base. You got to kind of push through it a little bit. You'll know it though, because if you don't, the whole goddamn motor will wobble like crazy. It'll be very obvious. All right. 2 motors down, 2 to go. I have 8 batteries ready to go. We will fly these things hard in the basement here, see how they hold up. And then that'll be the review. I think I've kind of talked about all the things. What other questions do you guys have about these this new Cockroach V3 frame? Anything? Anything that I haven't showed you on the frame? There are little, just like the 75 millimeter Cockroach frame, there are little hooks on the back of this frame for you to put an ELRS T-style antenna, which I think is pretty cool. And there's also a set of slots in the middle of the frame for you to drop like a whip antenna, a really thin ELRS whip antenna down into. So yeah, that's kind of cool. I'm down with that. I'm having a problem with this screw for some reason. It's not wanting to go in there. Let me swap it out for a different one. Maybe that screw is just angry. Let's see here. All right. Now this this screw hole in this stator is either the screw hole in the stator is stripped or the hole in the PDB is not lining up properly. I've got my 5X loop in my eyeball. I'm going to see if I can look through the bottom of the motor to see what the hell's going on here. Yeah, okay. So the PDB, I can see that the PDB is not, is just not, the hole in the PDB is not quite big enough, which I've not necessarily seen before, but it doesn't really surprise me, if I'm completely honest. There's a visitor here. Look at how bad. This is what a bad dog looks like. This dog destroyed a rug that Maggie bought less than 24 hours ago, and then destroyed another rug. His current MO is he's a rug destroyer. He just destroys all the rugs in the house. We're not allowed to have rugs anymore. This is what a bad boy looks like. So, yeah. This little jerk is going to have to spend all of his time that we're not babysitting him in his cage. Because he can't not destroy things. What a jerk. I just realized that I forgot to hit charge on the battery charger. Little frog legs. Here he goes. Here he goes. We got like 5 seconds of calm, and now it's just mayhem. He doesn't like it when I do it to him. All right, get out of here. Oh, God. Did you just bite my crotch and my pants? I think you just bit like the fold of pant material right above my wiener. Don't do that. All right, bye. Okay, so let's try this. I'm gonna do something dumb, and I'm gonna crank this screw with a little bit of vigor. Well, let's do this. Let's get the other screws in and see if there's any weirdness with the other screws. This will also keep the motor from rotating. All right, so this screw went in totally fine. This went in and it tightened down. Okay, so this one screw is completely fine. These other two are being a little weird, but I'm just going to push through it, and I think it'll thread into that PDB material. This is kind of stupid because it could also strip the motor out, but I have some faith. All right, that's pretty tight. I'm kind of jamming on that. So now I'm going to take a loop and look at the head of the screw and see if it's... Oh yeah, so that one screw I'm having problems with. Oh man, both of them. Both of them are sitting up. They're not holding down onto the base of the frame, so this motor can wobble around. And I'm kind of... Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Come on. This is not a good idea. Come on. Tighten up a little bit more so I know that you're... Oh, shit. Azalea and the dog are running around upstairs. Hold on, wait till they run again. Wait till you see how loud it is. If you've got headphones on or a subwoofer, prepare for some bass, yo. That was a quick one. Usually they run around for a few minutes. I think I got the one of them pretty tight. Yeah, I got the one screw pretty good. This other one is still nowhere near. I could just use those short screws on this one, but I don't really want to do that. If I'm going to use those short screws, I want to use them on all motors instead of just the one, just so I don't get like the screws confused. There we go. I just felt it bottom out, I believe. Yeah, so we're good. There you go. There's your base for the evening. Yeah, I don't love that. I kind of wish that I'd used those shorter screws from the get-go, but I'm saving those shorter screws for the other builds, so we should be all right. It was only one motor that so far that's been like that. Hopefully this motor is not the same. Doesn't look like it. I'm looking through the bottom of this motor, and I can't see any of the PDB, so we should be okay here. Let's find out. Let's find out. Okay. Yeah, we're fine. I can already tell. That one went damn near all the way in pretty quick. Alright. Yeah, we good. We good. Good. Alright, so 4 motors on. I'm going to have to throw this into Betaflight to make sure that they're spinning in the right direction. Other than that, though, we are good to go. We've got the ultimate freestyle tiny whoop build with the WeBleedFPV 0702 32,500 kV screamers on the Bee Drone Cockroach V3 frame. Chat is going ham, talking about builds. Tokyo Dom says, do the ducts feel like they'd crack easily? I mean, that is a really tough question. I mean, like, no, they don't. But I mean, there's no real way for me to answer that. As I said earlier, I've already beat the shit out of both of these frames, and the ducts have not cracked, and they've been very durable. So yeah, I don't think that would be an issue. But I mean, I've never really had a tiny whoop frame where I could say, like, you know, these ducts feel like they're gonna crack easily. I mean, there's just too much going on. The way that we crash these things is just so different than like just taking them by your hands and being like, yeah, it feels like it's going to be durable, or it feels like it's not going to be durable. Like you really can't. Anybody that takes one of these frames by hand and says like, oh yeah, this is going to be durable for sure, is really, yeah, they don't really know. I guess maybe there could be a situation where you could make that assessment, but I would be very wary of that because, yeah, the way that we crash these things is kind of weird. So you really got to leave the... Yeah. CMYK says, any word on 1102 coming back in stock, or are they discontinued? I have not thought about those 1102s in a while, to be honest. I did... So at Atlanta Automotive, I flew a whole bunch of tiny lifter batteries, probably about 10 to 15 tiny lifter double battery flights. And I did it both on the 1002 rig and the 1102 rig, and I like the 1002 rig better. It's lighter, a little bit better runtime, and it still has plenty of power. So yeah, the Bee Drone 1102s, yes, they're nice because they're plug and play, but the RC and Power 1002s have the solder pads. You can get a set of the Bee Drone motor plugs, solder them on pretty easily, and away you go. You've got a lighter weight rig with light blue and pink instead of the Bee Drone brownish gray. Let me take a quick break from building and put this up in the air. And then we'll dive into the Bee Drone build. It is 7:20, so yeah, we should actually have enough time to get that thing done. Plugging into Betaflight here. And let's get a battery hooked up, and we'll spin the motors up, see which ones are spinning the right direction, which ones are spinning the wrong direction. Come on now. Here we go with some Betaflight action. Okay. Here we go. So we're going to connect. And I'm just going to assume that they're not all spinning in the right direction, and we're going to go into the wizard, start and spin motors. All right, motor 1 is correct. 2 is incorrect. Click it to reverse it. 3 is correct. That means 4 is going to be incorrect. Click it to reverse it. Stop motors. Close. I understand the risks. Spin all 4 motors up just as a last second check. 1 is correct. 2 is correct. 3 is correct. 4 is correct. So we are good to go. And now we're going to check each motor individually just to make sure that none of them are all banged up. Feel great. Oh yeah, these motors are very clean. So this is a very clean setup. Here where the PIDs are at. Somewhat aggressive PID tune. 1.5 on the damping slider is a good amount. D-max up at 1.4. P&I gains up at 1.2, and then the master multiplier down at 1.0. Not all that aggressive, but yeah, a little bit of anger thrown in. Filtering is also kind of middle of the road. Gyro filter all the way up. D-term filter is the one that does the majority of the work, up at 1.2. That's somewhere in the middle. Nothing crazy with this tune, just a little bit bumped up from stock, just for that extra little bit of prop wash handling, since, you know, I want my flight footage to look good for you guys. And I know what situations that I need to not put the rig in, right? Like I've been flying long enough where I know how to put it into or not into dirty air. If you haven't been flying for a million years, you might not know that yet, and you might want to leave your PID tune a little bit softer so that you can fly more safely home if you bang the rig up somewhere, and also it'll make you a better pilot. Hey Teddy, I'm gonna eat you! I'm gonna cook you up like a little chicken. Can't all be good dads, you know? Not everybody is a good loving father. CMYK is going with RC and power. I need goggles. I need to be able to see where I'm going. Okay. There we go. So at that Atlanta Autos gig, I actually flew all analog, mainly because I knew I was going to be flying the tiny lifters, and I didn't want to be bringing 2 sets of goggles, but also because analog just works, man. Like it works, and I actually trust it in some ways more than digital, especially when there's, like, you know, I don't know. I'm always weirded out when there's the possibility for like cell phone towers or Wi-Fi routers or any other weird stuff. I feel like with analog, oh man, what the hell happened here? I feel like with analog, it's where's the VRX? Hold on. Analog isn't gonna just black screen on you. It's gonna break up little by little. Oh man, come on now. Well, that works, but why is the OBS just bombed? Hold on, restarting the DSLR. Why is it not? Come on now. Why is it just completely shit the bed? Alright, hold on. I gotta unplug this tiny loop before it catches on fire. Okay, so that's working. Why is it not sending the video to OBS? What the hell? Bueller! Why? Why? Unable to stream to OBS. Please upgrade. What? Oh, you fucking asshole. I don't know. There's. Hold on. I just what? Are you? Come on, man. I ask one thing of you. One thing is what I ask of you. Come on, man. Hold on. Hold on. I'll be right back again. God